Well, anyone else have some observations kind of in this passage?
Like how she was talking about the dirt and stuff. I just thought, I mean, I think it's kind of nasty too, but I thought it was cool. You know how in the Bible it's like from dust you shall return or something, or he makes us from dirt. And I thought it was cool that in this he used dirt also. So I was connecting those two. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool connection. Kind of the dust giving life in some way in the eyes.
I thought he just grabbed the mud and just spread it over him. I didn't know he had his own saliva. I thought he just like grabbed the mud and just spread it over all over his eyes or something. Like I didn't know.
Yeah, here's kind of a rhetorical question just to hopefully frame this in our imagination. If a random guy kind of walks up to you, he says he's a savior, but then is like, hey, I'm going to spit in this mud and rub it over your eyes. Would you really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would a little bit. But yeah, these are all some great observations. Let's move down to the other passage, kind of the 13 through 34 area. So group 2, what do you guys have? And same rule, group 1, feel free to share stuff if you found it as well too.
Let me go back to the thingy. We talked about how I don't remember the word that Raymond and Shelby said. I don't remember what was the word, but basically like the first question, it basically were like upset with his testimony. Like they kept going around questioning and everything, and the man is trying to tell him, like, I already told you this is what happened, but still they feel like they shouldn't believe it. Like even his own parents didn't even want to like take up for him. They're like, he's a grown man, he can do it himself, and talk about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of rejection in that. Go ahead, Raymond. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just feel like they just think it's blasphemy. Like they just feel like I guess like they're just like, yeah, we're disciples of Moses. He's a man sent by God. Like they don't believe in Jesus. They don't think he's like also sent by God as well. They just have a hard time believing that, especially because of the Sabbath thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Sabbath thing. Go ahead, Joey. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
No, please go. I was just gonna sum something up. I'd rather hear.
Oh, okay. I just was like talking about my like biggest like go away was that they like said that if that he would say that Jesus is the Messiah, like he was like considered a sinner, but like they didn't really realize that we all stepped into the world in sin. Like if Adam and Eve wouldn't have been created, like there would be no sin in the world and like everything would be perfect, but we wouldn't be here. So like they just didn't. I don't think they knew all the pieces of the puzzle before they decided to judge other people before judging themselves. And like I know that's talked about a lot in the Bible, but like I just really that just made it like heartfelt to me was that they judged one person because he was blind and not that what his heart was truly showing for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great observation. I really like the point when you kind of said like maybe they're missing something. Maybe they don't have it as all together as they kind of do, because we have hindsight, but you're right. Logically, if all have sinned and there's a lot of things that are a result of sin, should be a lot more like deformities and stuff like happening as well too. So something's missing here in what they're looking at.
And another thing, I was looking, let me go back.
Yeah, go for it.
Like I said from the beginning, like if people knew, I don't know if they knew, but like if they knew this man was like blind from birth, and then all of a sudden this man had creatively just made this man like see again. So it's like then he telling people about it, like I got you know, I can't say it. Like I could see again and stuff like that. This man had did something to me, and now I could see again. Like if you don't like, it's weird. Like this, if everybody knew that that man was blind from birth from the start, it should give you an eye opener to like, dang, let's see who this man really about. And then like me, I hate saying this, but like I have to see proof before I can believe anything.
Mhm.
That's just me. But I feel like, you know, if I was there and, you know, I saw, you know, Jesus like actually doing that for my own eyes, I would believe it. Even if I didn't even see it, I would believe it as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Because
Man,
like
that's really cool. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah.
Off. I want to make sure we have time for observations. But I
Oh
think
yeah, go ahead.
what you're saying are like really starting to hit at the heart of the passage. So we're going to get to time where we can apply and share how this is hitting home for us. Kind of like grab it and keep it with you because I definitely want to hear it later. But yeah, so let's kind of move on to some questions. If you want to, go ahead and go to the document and like while I'm talking, write down any questions you have. But here we have the questions of how does the sin of a parent affect the child? And why does the man gaining sight kind of change his appearance to some people? Does anyone have any other questions they want to put down and write in it before we go into like some interpretation and question answering?
The link. I need a link.
Oh, you need the link again? Can someone repost it for her?
Like I get it from the chat, so like once you post the link, it's gonna like vanish away, and then people gotta keep on resending.
Gotcha. We'll make sure to do that for you. Okay, yeah, I see someone's typing a question in about like spirituality and some other stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and so we're gonna send you back into breakout rooms. I have two questions for us. What are we learning about belief? Like, how does one come to believe in Jesus? I know some of us have touched upon that from the first passage already. And describe the blind man's progression of belief. What do you kind of like notice about that? So now I'd also really encourage you guys when you search for the answers, take a good look at 35 through 41. This is the like main meat of the interpreting passage. So for these questions that we're going to send you into, draw from everywhere you can, but really focus in on that like 35 to 41. So go ahead, choose one question of your choice, and then spend some time tackling these two questions in your breakout room. Sounds good? Go ahead and send them in. All right, cool. Welcome back, everyone. Let's start some question answering and get some answers for this passage. First off, before we go to the two questions I offered, did anyone have like a third question or like a do your own question they went over that they want to share the answers for? If not, it's all right. Just want to give space for that first. All right, cool. Well, let's kind of jump into this first overall question. What are we learning about belief? How does one come to kind of like believe in Jesus through this passage?
Is James saying something?
I mean, you could go. You could go.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, so I just said that belief is just something like that's hard to come by for some people, like especially those who like I guess like they just don't see the miracles like firsthand and they just don't believe in them. Like you can come to believe in Jesus by worshiping what he does, like even if it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah. So you're saying that like kind of in this attitude of belief, for some people there's like a big like kind of trust component, or like was I able to see it for myself as well too. Were you gonna say something too, James?
Yeah, I'll just go off of what Raymond was saying was how everyone doesn't have, I think he said like a personal interaction with Jesus, kind of like the blind man did. And so that's kind of what I typed, was just saying that everyone encounters Jesus in different situations. In this case, the blind man had a personal interaction with Jesus or God. But something to note was that the blind man was also willing and open to a savior. But then other people, their only interaction may be from a story. The other people that he encountered, they didn't have that same interaction with Jesus. They didn't see it. Their only encounter with him was believing the story that he said, and from the turnaround in his life. So just noting that not everyone may have like a profound interaction like with Jesus, like the blind man did, but like the blind man, we must also be ready, to share our stories about our interactions with Jesus, because that may be the only opportunity, people have to meet or believe in him.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good. I think when we kind of look at what the blind man is putting like outwards, we can see him sharing the story of what Jesus has come with. Kind of to the Pharisees, we see him sharing this like kind of secondhand story, but one that's like impacted him really, really deeply. And then we kind of see the Pharisees like respond with a lot of like different accusations. Like, I mean, if you want and you have the passage pulled up, go ahead and type in the chat, like, kind of what's your favorite Pharisee like response to it. I don't know why, as I was reading this passage and just reading each one of the Pharisees' responses, I see things such as like, oh, you're disciples, but we're disciples of Moses, or like, is this your son? Was he born blind? Like them repeating these same things over and over again because they don't see it. They just don't get it as well. Yeah. Cool. Kind of like seeing the blind man, or talking more about the blind man, kind of like going through these things. Let's focus in on him. What was the blind man's progression of belief? Like, who was he when he started, and kind of where was he as all of this like ended as well too?
I think I have something that's like related to him. Like I think that like I said, he was blind from birth, from the start. So I think that he never thought he'd actually, get healed or
Sorry, Nikki,
be
you might have to
able to.
sit up. I think the mic's kind of like muted right now. You might have.
Oh, let me see. You can hear me now?
Cool, that's better. Yeah, go for it again.
Okay, like I said, the man was blinded from birth, right? So
Mhm.
it was like, so I feel like the man didn't feel like he would actually give, like actually save. I can't even say get actually saved again or like actually see again. That's what I'm trying to say. But anywho, but then this man just came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, just you know, made this man see again. So I feel like you know, somebody's beliefs can be like switched like that in a matter of a second just by somebody doing that. But it's like it takes a long time for somebody can actually believe in Jesus and stuff like that. See, I
Yeah,
had a
so
problem with that. I had a problem with that since childhood. Like I was a church girl. I was a Christian. I was kind of like a Christian, but like I was going to church like 24/7. And I feel like all the bad stuff happens in my life. I feel like God wasn't really real. God wasn't actually popping up in my life because I
yeah,
wasn't seeking for Him and stuff like that. So
yeah. So
I can really believe.
you kind of bring up a really good point about like Jesus coming to that man in the process. So kind of like narrowing down, like where does this like blind man like start in the process? But yeah, but that was really good, Nikki. Thanks for kind of like sharing like that time in your walk through that.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the beginning of his process, he just saw Jesus as a prophet. I think that's what he said. And then towards the end, I feel like he actually believed him like as in Jesus as his savior for who he actually really was. And you could see that he saw him in a different way than the Pharisees, because in verses 40 through 41, when he's asking them, like the Pharisees are like, are you saying we're blind now? But Jesus wasn't saying they were blind like physically, but they were blind because they saw, they know there's proof that he did it, but they don't want to believe it. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. That's really good. Like, as you said, this man kind of starts off by saying, like, this man's like a prophet. Even kind of like to go a little before that, he starts off by saying, this man is called like Jesus, the man they call Jesus. Which kind of really shows that there's not any like huge connection to it as well, too. Yeah, kind of Faith, that quote of like, look, I told you once, didn't you listen? Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want us to become his disciples too? I think that's a perfect example of how lost the Pharisees are, but also an example of how this blind man has went from not really knowing who Jesus is to thinking Jesus is a prophet to, at this point, I know it's kind of tongue in cheek, but the blind man's kind of like trying to evangelize to the prophets. He's saying like, do you guys want to become disciples? It's like, look, I'm a disciple now. Like, how about y'all like come and join me? And then they don't really take too like nicely to that, but it's kind of like a funny role reversal situation where he goes from being healed to instantly like, hey, y'all should be like his disciples too. Yeah, so kind of just to cap it off, does anyone want to kind of finish off and share like, where does this blind man's progression of faith kind of end? I know Cam mentioned that he's really like close and trusting in Jesus. What kind of shows from the past that happened to him? Is there anything kind of like in the last 35 to 41 verses that really show you like this blind man like got it? This blind man really wanted to be with Jesus.
Yeah, it said he said, yes, Lord, I believe. And he started worshiping him, once Jesus told him that he was the Son of Man. He didn't even really know necessarily who the Son of Man was at first. But just from his experience, he didn't have any doubt and he just started worshiping him on the spot.
Yeah, you got it, man. Yeah. Belief and worship. This man, by the end of all of it, comes up to Jesus. The man answers like, who is the Son of Man? I want to believe in him. Jesus says, it's me. You've seen him. And this man's like, all right, I'm going to believe in you. I believe you. And then I love how John says, and he worshiped Jesus. Because sometimes I would imagine like another author would write, he praised Jesus. This is what he said to Jesus. John's not shy. He just straight out writes, he worshiped Jesus. Like there's no room for kind of confusion of what the man did next. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I think you guys really like dug well into this passage today, even though it's like a huge long chunk. Let me kind of just frame up some things and kind of hone in on what the main message of like this passage is today. So as we said before, this is the sixth sign that Jesus has done. And this sign is the healing of a blind man. Now, as a physical sign, I'm going to be honest, Jesus has kind of done better. He's stopped the wind. He's created food. He's healed people on their deathbed. He's even turned water into wine. Maybe that one's a little lower on the tier than healing a blind person. But when we kind of like look at all of these things, while this is really important to the man himself, it's nothing new. But as we kind of talked about, when we look deeper and dive into the spiritual significance, we can see the main message is that Jesus is really the light of the world who brings spiritual sight to the blind and light to the darkness. Not just light to somebody's eyes physically, but light to who they are spiritually. Because we have this contrast of the blind being given sight and darkness being lifted from our eyes. Because during this time, like we talked about, people connected with being blind was also connected with saying your parents have sinned or you have sinned. The Pharisees obviously carry this line of thought as seen through their questioning. But this kind of comes and meets in both of those places. When he's come to give light to our spiritual life, he says, hey, I see blindness as a sign for sin according to the culture. I'm going to heal you of your sin, and then I'm going to also heal you of your physical and spiritual blindness from this man. So that's why Jesus offers us through his sign. Now, focusing in on like the blind man was healed instantly for his sight, but it took him time to begin to see Jesus. You kind of shared this, Nikki, with your own story. I think it's totally true that usually it doesn't happen that fast. Like it doesn't happen within a span of an hour. We go that fast. But I think this blind man's story still gives us good like progression points we can see him moving through. He went from saying at first, this is the man that they call Jesus, to his neighbors, he's kind of detached. Then he went to saying to the prophets, or he went to saying to the Pharisees, oh, this man is a prophet or someone from God that he sent. And then he went to sharing to Jesus, yes, Lord, I believe, and worshiping Jesus. This man goes through these stages of unbelief from knowing about Jesus from not knowing Jesus at all, to kind of knowing about Jesus, and then just worshiping him, and he moves through them so quickly. And I think finally it's important to also note that his faith was really tested as the Pharisees kind of like pounded on him and put all this stuff on him and tested him in his faith. And he responded in great strength. But finally, there's also a warning here. Jesus says himself, I entered the world to render judgment. If you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty, but you remain guilty because you claim to see. And as we've talked about a lot, the Pharisees claim that they think they know everything. But as we discussed, there's definitely a piece missing here. I forgot who shared it before, but even that great piece about Adam and Eve is that like they definitely should have known that if this is where sickness comes from sin, that everyone should be like sick. But they completely miss that, and in their all-knowingness, they just can't see that. They're arguing about Moses and the other prophets, accusing this man of sin, but in other ways, they become more blind than however blind the man was himself. If you can't see Jesus, you really can't see God, and they don't understand that. And even though they may be able to see physically, they can't see spiritually at all. And so kind of to bring it home again, yeah, they're still blind and ignorant, that they miss the light of the world, the Son of God, come down in human form right in front of them. But this blind man didn't. This blind man realized that, hey, Jesus is the light of the world. I believe and see him, and I want to be with him. So kind of the application I want to go with us in today is bring up the question for you is, how do you know Jesus? Is this something that you've just heard about or known? Is Jesus someone that you see and actually worship? Where are you and where is Jesus inviting you to be closer? This is our hope for you as InterVarsity. I'm going to kind of scroll down to I think I posted a picture here. Sorry, no, I didn't. Give me one quick second. I'm going to share my screen. And here I kind of have this chart I made about what I feel like really describes this passage. As you can see, there's a 0 through 10. And 0 is saying kind of like, I don't really have any belief in Jesus. I don't really believe in him. 5 is saying like, I'm a cultural Christian, right? Like a Pharisee. Christianity is kind of in the culture I know. I know who Jesus is, but I don't really know him, believe him, and I'm not intimate with him. And then finally, 10 is kind of having this full belief and worship of Jesus, saying like, yeah, I believe God, I worship him, I'm all in for him. So in the kind of Google Doc, I've put that chart in the application, and I have a question for you guys. What number would you guys say you were at, like kind of before the study, before the season? What number would you say you're at right now or really wanting to go to? Were you maybe at like a 5 and you're really hoping to go towards a 7 or go towards a 10? Or maybe you're even at like a 0 right now and you say like, hey, I want to know more about God, I want to know more about Jesus. I want you guys to go ahead, go to the chart, start filling that out, maybe even take some time to pray and think about it. And then afterwards, we'll go into breakout rooms to kind of like share our answers about it and where we're at and how we want to move forward. So go ahead, take some time, kind of think about it, look at the chart and put it in your own kind of applications and chart too. Okay, I think that should be everyone, but yeah, y'all, I hope your discussions were going really good, and it was really cool to kind of see you guys fill out the chart and even share your numbers and how you've like advanced as well too. I kind of wanted to end this with both like an encouragement, but also kind of like a warning I think this passage gives us is, yeah, I think it's really cool that we're being able to get closer to God and spend time with him and see how he's working in our lives. But I do kind of want to warn, when we look in this passage, I think Jesus uses the Pharisees as a pretty apt example for what it means to be a cultural Christian and the danger of it. For a lot of us, especially me, we grew up in church. Like, we know who God is. We learned about him. Maybe we heard about the stories in Sunday schools or through like Veggie Tales or something. So we have like a lot of knowledge about God. But as we kind of saw with the Pharisees, even with all of the knowledge of God, because they weren't worshiping him, because they weren't like wanting to move towards him, they actually moved like backwards as well. Like, if we're kind of like looking at our chart here, if the Pharisees started off like right here, instead of moving this way towards Jesus, they're moving farther and farther and farther away until the point where they're like, this man's like a sinner. This man's like blaspheming God. And I want to ask us, like, for those of us that are kind of like sitting in the cultural Christian area, that have grown up in church, that know about God but don't worship him, what's it going to kind of like take for us to go forward in our faith and not backwards? Because in all honesty, we're never like sitting stagnantly in one place. We're either moving forward and backwards. And I want to challenge you guys on your college campus, what does it mean to move forward? What does it mean to go like towards Jesus instead of away from him? And for those of you that like are moving towards him, I think that's like really great. And I'm happy to see that. And I want to ask you now, do you have any friends that are like this blind man, that don't know of Christ, that are kind of blind to him, that are starting off at zeros? Can you guys help anyone like this blind man who started like all the way here, but by the end of this passage was like right here to Jesus? I think it'd be so cool if on the college campus, you can invite your friends, you can have a Bible study with them and help show them that Jesus is the light of the world and help open up their eyes to them. And honestly, if you're having trouble personally, like trying to stop being a cultural Christian and worshiping God more, or having trouble trying to help your friends come to Jesus, hey, schedule a call with one of us, talk to one of us. As InterVarsity staff, we want to help you really get connected with how to become closer to God and how to help others come closer to him. I've left a lot of stuff for you guys tonight. I think the last thing I want to do is kind of pray a blessing over us as we go out from tonight. So, dear Father, I really thank you for this time, Lord, where we've really seen what it means to have faith and follow you, where we've seen that you're the light of the world and you haven't just healed people physically, Lord, but you've brought them deep, deep spiritual healing, God. I really pray, Lord, that as each of us on this call tonight has thought of a number or put down the number of where we've been and where we've now been, Lord, that we can make the steps to move there. Whether we're going from someone that doesn't know Christ at all to knowing about God, whether we're going from someone that's just known God all our life and heard about him to someone that's actually worshiping and spreading his news on campus, I ask God that you be working in all of this, Lord, and that you be almost the catalyst for bringing this sight to us and then covering our eyes more and more. Lord, I thank you for each person you brought into this call tonight. And I just pray, for the favor and the ability for people to just say like, hey, are you looking for Jesus? I'm a disciple of him. Do you want to be his disciples too? And have those conversations. So I thank you, Lord, for this night, and in your name, amen. Cool. That's all I have tonight.
Just a couple closing thoughts. I always like to remind y'all, if you're interested in becoming a campus rep, it's a program to help you take those next steps in growing in your faith. We like to say, grow while you go. Growing with Jesus is meant to be done on the move and by serving others. So we have these different online modules that you can work through with videos and worksheets. Some of you on this call are reps. You can testify to it. Cheyenne from LSUE has finished all 5 modules. So I just sent her a shirt, a journal, stickers. I believe Cam finished too, or is close. So Cam, you'll be getting your swag bag here shortly. But if any of you want to become campus reps and start growing more intentionally in our InterVarsity leadership program, sign up for a Zoom call with me and we can talk more about it. Just 30-minute Zoom call. We can make that happen. So let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, we'll see you next Monday night for our final Bible study on signs. And if you are part of a campus that has a local gathering, get involved there. Southeastern is on Wednesday nights at 8. LSU's meeting on Thursday nights. Is that at 7?
Thursday nights at 7, we're going to be in the student union.
And then I'm looking at the other schools on here. We don't have anything local at any of the other schools. So we'll just see you back. And lastly, if you ever need to talk or pray with one of us as staff, you can always reach out to us too on Instagram or reply to the email you're getting. We'd love to set up a video call with you, or even potentially come visit you at your school, pray with you, disciple you, whatever you would like help growing with the Lord. So have a good night.
Good night, y'all. Feel free to hang around and chill too if y'all want.
Yeah, more Halloween conversation.